Hello, this is Mrs. Giroux, and I'm just wanting to walk you through Studio Project 2. That's Unit 4. So you're going to go into your content in the Fine Arts class, and you will scroll down to where it says 4, Studio Project 2, and click on that folder right there. And when you do, you will see the directions pop up. So directions. 19th century artists responded to industrial and scientific advances in Europe and the United States by developing new artistic styles. Some artists favored an almost photographic realism in their works. Others cultivated a more expressive style, using lively brushwork and bold color combinations. In this studio, you will make 2 paintings of the same subject. You will paint one with realistic or naturalistic techniques and the other with Impressionist or Post-Impressionist techniques. So see these examples below. So on the left, the artist who created this realist painting used a natural color palette to depict a still life based on real objects. Remember, realism is about things that are real in the world. So this is when artists kind of stopped creating paintings with cupids and imaginary characters. The artist who created this Post-Impressionist painting, and why is it Post-Impressionist? Probably because of the bolder use of rich, bright colors. And it's got that Van Gogh style. Painting of a still life, applied strokes of pure color directly to the paper. So what you need to make sure that you're aware of is that you can choose any subject matter, right? But remember, it needs to be a real subject. Each painting is of the same subject, okay? One's realistic, the other's impressionistic, all right? So this means, can you do an anime character? No, because anime is imaginative. It's like the Cupid, okay? You need to do your work of a real subject. So you could go outside and do a landscape, you could do a still life, you could do a portrait, but it needs to be something real. It's not a cartoon, okay? That's what realism's all about, is getting away from imaginary things and focusing on what's really in our reality, right? Okay, so hopefully you understand that, and if you have any questions on it, make sure that you text, call, or come and see me in the help room. I'm there Monday through Wednesdays, 3:30 p.m., and my cell phone's right here. So next, I just want to walk you through the process. So this first, remember, you're doing 2 paintings in a different style of the same subject matter. So here is the still life, right? So this is going to be your realist or naturalist painting. So you're going to choose a simple subject such as a still life and plan the composition. All right, make sure it's nice and balanced. And set up your lighting too so that you're getting good shadows and contrast on your objects. You may want to use the pyramid configuration to organize the elements of a composition with a triangle for a sense of stability. So we do have a bit of a triangle happening here. It might not be what would that be called when it's like a perfect, is that isosceles? I can't remember. Boy, kids, this is geometry time. Anyway, what kind of a triangle would this be? Experiment with the location of the horizon line. So here's the horizon line back there. So just try to make that interesting. Realist or naturalist painting. Create the realist or naturalist painting first. Sketch the composition on the paper and then draw in some details. Okay, just like you see there. All right, and then when you choose colors for a realist or naturalist painting, stay true to the colors that you're observing, okay? Avoid using pure color straight from the tube because normally things aren't that color, right? You normally would have to add a little bit of white or black to blend and get the colors that you're wanting. Remember those basics that you learned in school, that like when you do yellow and blue, that makes green. So you can get different hues of green, all right? Different tones, different tints. And then what other colors do you know how to mix? How do you make orange, red, and yellow, right? So think of those basics and get creative and try to get a color palette that is what you're seeing in front of you by mixing your colors on your palette. For neutral colors, you can make variations of gray by mixing different amounts of black and white together, or you can mix complementary colors. Perfect. Avoid mixing too many colors on the palette or they'll look muddy. Realistic or naturalist painting. Paint a thin wash of color to establish the basic forms of the objects. So a thin wash, if you want to water that down a little bit, you can. So just making a nice thin wash. Begin by adding color to the different parts. So loosely build the shadowed areas and leave the paper unpainted where the highlights will be. So you'll notice that in this area here, the artist has left some areas that actually are pretty white because those are the highlights. And on this jar, for example, left some areas white, and on the table and on the peach. From time to time, lightly mist your palette to keep the paint from drying out. Layer one color on top of the other. Avoid mixing and blending too many colors on the paper or they'll look muddy. To model objects with highlights and shadows, use a variety of lights and darks. Gradually blend darker tones for shadows and lighter tones for highlights with the base tone while the paint is still wet. Sign and date your painting, usually done in the bottom right-hand corner, and you might want to take some time on a piece of paper to develop your artist signature. Your signature itself should be a work of art. All right, so now getting started with the Impressionist painting or Post-Impressionist painting. If you decide to make an Impressionist painting, note that Impressionist painters didn't typically make preparatory sketches. So you may skip the sketching stage and paint directly on a blank sheet of paper. If you do sketch the Impressionist or Post-Impressionist painting, make the drawing as close as possible to the realist drawing, but don't include all of the fine details. A tip for duplicating the first drawing is to trace it. Place the second sheet of paper on the original drawing and hold it on a window as you trace it. For an Impressionist or Post-Impressionist painting, use bold or pastel colors. Avoid dark, gloomy colors. Keep the palette consistent to creating unity in the painting. Use color to express emotion and create a mood. For example, use fiery yellows, reds, and oranges to create a warm, energetic mood. Use cool greens, blues, and violets to create a calm, relaxed mood. Use bright colors to create energy and excitement. Use contrasting color combinations, including cool and warm, saturated and neutral, and transparent and opaque. So yeah, cool and warm, that'd be like blues and reds, right, tones. And saturated means that there's a lot of color. It's really rich and intense. Neutral means that maybe it's, you know, got some, it's kind of maybe more on the gray, light gray tone area, or it's got a lot of white added to it, so it just doesn't have a lot of saturations, more along kind of the sepia tones or black and white kind of feel. And then transparent means that you can actually see through it to the white paper, right? And opaque means that you can't see through it. To create shadows, use blues, greens, and violets rather than adding black to a color. Okay. For example, combine red and blue to create deep violet hues, or blue and small amounts of yellow and red to create dark green. Experiment with the Impasto technique. All right, so what's impasto? Is that where we have thick strokes of paint, right? And use a craft stick or plastic knife to apply thick sculptural strokes of paint to create a textured surface. Or blot excess water from your paintbrush and then load your brush with paint before putting it on the paper. Use expressive brush strokes or swirls of color in places you want to show energy, movement, or interest. To create unity, use touches of the various colors of your color palette throughout the painting. Sign and date the painting. Compare the paintings side by side. Spend some time thinking about the techniques you use to create each painting. Do you prefer one painting over the other? What is it about that painting that draws your attention? If you were to spend additional time revising either painting, what changes would you make? These would be great comments to leave for me. Actually, I'd love it if you guys would leave a comment about your process, what you experienced, what you liked best, what worked, what didn't work. Also, remember guys that you do need to take an in the process picture of each one to show me that you did the work. So for example, a good point where you could take a picture of your realism piece would be like right here. You could take a picture of that, right? And then when you're all finished and you've got it all signed, then take a picture of it there, right? So I can see the before and the after. And then for your Impressionism piece, you could take a picture of it here to show me your mid-process, or here. And then once you have it all finished, take a picture of it like that and send it to me. So remember, I'm still looking for evidence that it's your work. And, you know, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have to ask for that evidence. But unfortunately, I have been teaching here for 2 years now, and I have not experienced one block yet where I didn't have students cheating. So that's the reality of the world I live in, unfortunately. So I do have to ask for that, and I don't mean to be condescending in asking for that, but yeah. So that's the assignment. I can't wait. All right, so I put a due date of Thursday, Thursday, March 4th, midnight. And the reason why I did that is because I figured if you can get these paintings done by Thursday, then Friday is prom, and you'll be done and you can enjoy prom, and you don't have to worry about, you know, doing anything for Mrs. Giroux. You can just enjoy prom day. All right, does that sound fair? Perfect. Love you guys. Have a good one.